Good morning, friends. This talk is about EBOO. What is EBOO? EBOO is extracorporeal blood oxygen ozonization, meaning blood is withdrawn from a donor site in a sealed circuit, ozonized in an ozonization glass chamber, and is reintroduced to the patient's body through a recipient vein, and the process happens continuously. Ozone is a very powerful agent, very powerful antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal, antiparasitic, and works in hosts of other ways. It is a powerful immune modulator acting at mitochondrial levels. It is something that actually detoxifies the body and is age reversing. Hematogenous administration of ozone can be either with small volumes as in major autohemotherapy or in large volumes as in EBOO. We do not recommend renal filters and dialysis equipment for EBOO, and we claim that there is nothing called ozone dialysis. EBOO is not dialysis. Unlike conventional dosing, IAOS recommends very high dose of ozone backed by clinical and laboratory tests to arrive. The current recommended EBOO dosage of ozone is 250 to 350 milligrams or up to 350,000 micrograms. The indications and usage of the procedure are extensive, and the indications are pretty large. From anti-aging in normal people to cancer regressions, numerous conditions have been treated very successfully with extracorporeal blood oxygen ozonization. The video shows the complete steps in real time how the procedure is done. As with all blood procedures, the surgeon first dons the gloves to avoid coming in direct contact with the blood. This is very important for all hematogenous procedures and while administering intravenous injections also. The first step is having two diluted heparin syringes for priming the donor and recipient sites. We use 5000 IU per ml of heparin. 1 milliliter of this heparin is drawn and this is mixed with 4 or 5 ml of saline. The syringe is capped, locked and kept aside. This syringe will be attached to the vein the instant the venflon enters the vein and blood is spotted. The syringe contains now heparin 5 ml at 1000 units per milliliter. The syringe is capped and kept aside. The same steps are repeated for the next syringe. 1 vial of 5 ml containing 25,000 units of heparin is taken for every EBOO session, and of this 25,000 we use around 12,500 13,000 units of heparin for one session. So, the second syringe is also filled with diluted heparin and capped and kept aside for later use. The vial now has 3 ml of heparin, which is 15,000 international units, and this is mixed with 500 ml of saline in the saline bottle. This saline bottle will then be one of the components of the EBOO system, where one section of the EBOO tube goes in. Initially, the heparin is used to prime the set, and later a very small volume of this will be added regularly to the blood as the blood flows. So, here we are withdrawing the remaining 3 milliliters of heparin, and this gets diluted with 500 milliliters of normal saline. All this 500 ml is not going to be used during the EBOO process. About 100 to 150 ml will be the only quantity which is used. The IAOS EBOO donor site tubing assembly is opened and the connections are identified. There are 2 separate sets, one for the donor side, one for the recipient side. The sets come double wrapped and sterile by ethylene dioxide. They are made out of silicone and other 100% latex compatible components only. The set contains one lure connection for attaching to the donor site and contains 2 bulbs, one which will go into the heparin bottle and the other which will go into the EBOO bottle. The bulb without the filter goes into the heparin bottle. The bulb with the filter goes into the EBOO bottle. So, we can see that there is a 3-way which is connecting the heparin bottle to the silicone tube that is used for pumping in blood. The bulb without the filter is now inserted into the heparinized saline bottle, which is hung on the stand. So, here the bulb without blood filter is inserted and this is hung on the drip stand. Besides this is the ultraviolet blood irradiation chamber, into which the EBOO flask or EBOO bottle will be hung. At this stage, the closure clamp or the closure knob of the heparin saline is opened and this will flood the entire system with heparin. We wait till it reaches to the lure lock, which will be connected to the patient's body, and once the entire system is primed with heparin, we lock and close the tube. This ensures that there is no clotting of the blood. The bulb with the transfusion filter is now identified and the top of the EBOO bottle is uncapped. The arrow shows which is top and which is bottom. Once the top portion is uncapped, we can see that there are 3 markings. One is a small circle which is used for the waste, one is a large circle through which the bulb is now going to be inserted, and the third is a plus The plus part is the one that goes into the stainless steel diffuser, which will bubble the blood with ozone. So, as you can see, these are the EBOO bottles, and you can find an up arrow which says top and a down arrow which says bottom. The blood set bulb is inserted into the large circle, while a bent needle is inserted into the small circle. So, we have identified the top and bottom. The top is opened and into the large hole, large circle, the bulb end is inserted. Now, we take a needle. I prefer to use a 16 gauge thick needle. This goes into the smaller circle. This will be the waste out and also the vent for excess ozone. The EBOO bottle is now placed in the UVBI stand. The stand has got 4 strips of ultraviolet light on all its sides, and once the blood is being ozonized, it will also be irradiated in ultraviolet light. So, here it is set and everything is ready for the donor site blood collection. We now connect the ozone machine to a silicone tube, and from the machine the tube is connected to the bottle. So, a 16 gauge needle is bent to the right angles, attached to a silicone tube, and the needle is pushed into the center of the plus mark. The opposite end of the tube is inserted into the ozone out part of the ozone machine. As shown in the video, a needle is taken, it is bent to 90 degrees after insertion into a long silicone tube. This is inserted into the plus part of the bottle to ensure that the needle goes straight into the stainless steel diffuser and the ozone is delivered right into the blood. It is essential to have the part right to push the needle right into the middle of the plus where the two lines meet. The other end of the silicone tube is now attached to the ozone machine at the ozone out port. We have to flood the bottle with ozone ranging in concentration from 70 to 180 is 110 micrograms per ml. Another silicone tube is connected to the needle previously inserted into the small circle, which will be the waste out, and that goes into a glass bottle for waste collection. So, now we have the blood in, the ozone in, and the waste out, all three from the top connected. The perfusion pump is now inspected and tested to evaluate whether it is moving correctly in the right direction or not. The time is now right for inserting the silicone portion of the donor tubes to the machine. We adjust the speed of the machine to the lowest, that is around 5 milliliters per minute. It is best to start at 5 or 6 ml and then increase it to 35 or 40 as much as the vein diameter or the cannula permit. Now everything is connected and ready. It is the right time to find the vein, but before that we have to connect the silicone portion beyond the T connection to the heparin solution into the pump and clamp it. This is the most important step. The silicone section beyond the bivalve for heparin has to be connected into the pump. The silicone section before the T connection is not suitable for proper pumping, and the pump blood will rise up into the heparin saline bottle, which is not desirable. So, we are identifying the section of the pump after the bivalve, and this section is put into the machine by lifting the clamps and locking it in position. Now, this perfusion pump will pull the blood and push it into the bottle. We must check that the direction is set right. The donor vein site is now identified, located, and I must caution you here that unless we can get at least 118 gauge Venflon for the donor site, the person may not be suitable for an extracorporeal blood ozonization procedure. You can see that the vein is identified, an 18G cannula is inserted. I always attempt to get the thickest cannula that the vein can accommodate, which makes the procedure easy and fast. 16G works well, 18G also works, but narrower than 18G will unnecessarily prolong the procedures. Being an impatient man, I would like to finish the procedure within 30 minutes, if not faster. If we are using 19 or 20 gauge cannulas, it may take close to 2 hours to finish the procedure to administer the same amount of ozone that we want. The primed syringe is now attached to the syringe, attached to the Venflon, and a little of it is pushed, after which the donor site lure lock is connected to the cannula, and the pressure pump, the perfusion pump is switched on. The instant the perfusion pump is switched on, it will start sucking the blood from the patient vein, and you can see the blood being pulled in and gradually going into the bottle. Just before it enters the bottle, it will be mixed with heparin, which is made to flow at a very slow rate. After crossing the bottle, crossing the perfusion pump, it will rise up to the bottle where it is going to be ozonized. You can see that the blood is rising up against the gravity, being perfused, being pushed into the perfusion pump. Now the recipient side vein is located and another Venflon is inserted. It does not matter if the recipient site cannula is of a narrower dimension. Likewise, it does not matter if the recipient site is on the wrist side, but for the donor side, we always prefer to have a cubital fossa entry. Blood by now slowly starts filling into the ozonated flask from the donor side. the ozone was switched on just after connecting the donor line. So, once the recipient line is located, a syringe with heparin is attached to keep it patent and intact. Meanwhile, here the blood is being gradually sucked into the bottle. The three tubes you see here, one that is coming through the bulb is the blood into which you can see the blood being trickling slowly into the bottle. The other two tubes hanging from the opposite side, one is connected to the ozone machine which is pumping ozone, and the other is connected to the waste bottle through which the excess foam and waste will be collected in another glass bottle. IAOS EBOO system almost utilizes 97% of the ozone, and thus we do not need an ozone destroyer at the other end. The inflow speed can be now increased to about 20 and then to about 30 milliliters per minute. We would prefer to have a steady stream of blood flowing in, and if we can see the blood in the bottle, it is bubbling due to the ozone. As we are going to switch on the ultraviolet lights in a short while, all the staff and the patient must wear UV protective goggles to protect their eyesight. The speed of the inflow is increased and now the blood is flowing as a steady stream. This is about 40 ml per minute. We can go up to 50 or 60 ml per minute if there is a central line. Always start the suction slow at about 5 ml per minute, and once the blood starts dripping into the flask, increase the speed. 30 to 40 ml per minute is the recommended maximum speed. The important trick here is to look for pulsations of the pipe. If the tube starts pulsating, then we have to reduce the speed to ensure that it does not pulsate. We wait till 50% of the flask is filled and is continuously ozonated before opening up the next set of tubings, which is a recipient set tubings. You can see that ozone is bubbling constantly and the blood, which was venous in color, is now turning to cherry red. While we start the recipient flow, that will be the time to begin the ultraviolet lights for irradiation of the blood. We can see that the excess froth and the protein waste are traveling through the waste silicone tube and is being collected in a separate bottle. When the flask is more than 50% full, the bottom stopper is opened and the outflow set of that outflow transfusion set is filled in. The bulb is primed, the flow is started, and the end is attached to the recipient site. So, here the recipient blood set is opened, the tip, the bulb is removed, the set is closed. Here the bottom we are pushing the blood set, set is being primed and the blood flow is opened. It is better to hold a stainless steel cup at the end of the tube to ensure that all air has come out. Once the blood has reached the opposite end, it is connected to the recipient venflon and the blood flow is started. It is important to know at this juncture that we must match the ozone inflow, the blood inflow with the blood outflow. The blood that is coming out is cherry red to show high level of ozonization. We can see the comparison between the blood that is going in and the blood that is coming out. From violet it has become cherry red. This is the time to switch on the ultraviolet light and we constantly monitor and adjust the cylinder pressure, ozone concentration, speed and flow of the perfusion pump and also monitor the patient comforts. The color difference between the inflow and outflow is very clearly seen as shown in the video. So that is the inflow which is almost venous in color and that is outflow which is blood red in color. The bubbling of the ozone shows that it is being ozonized and the excess froth or waste is being collected in the glass bottle which should amount to less than 20 ml at the end of the session. Please remember that no renal filters or any filters are used at this moment and this entire change in color is due to ozonization. Here we are using 85 gamma of ozone at 1/8 of a liter volume and we are ensuring that the inflow and outflow are equally matched. This patient I decided to give a total dose of 350 grams or 350,000 micrograms per ml of ozone to ozonize him. He was a debilitating rheumatoid arthritis patient on almost 35 grams of steroid. Ozone flow as well as the pump rates are constantly titrated and are patient tailored. The foamy waste exits through the small hole on the top stopper and the silicone discharges into the glass bottle. As the system practically absorbs all the ozone that is administered, there is no need for an ozone destroyer at the exit side. We wait for sufficient time for the quantities of blood needed to be ozonized. In this patient, we have used 40 ml per minute for 30 minutes, which is 1.2 liters. No, I think 40 minutes. There is 1.6 liters of blood, and in these 40 minutes, about 350,000 units were administered. The entry ozone was 112.27 and the exit ozone is only 6.42 as measured with an ozone analyzer. Dose calculation is extremely simple, 1/8 liter per minute Oxygen at switch 4 produces 85 micrograms per ml. 85 micrograms per ml will produce 85,000 micrograms in 1 liter, which will take 8 minutes. 85,000 multiplied by 3, 340 milligram. 34 is a misprint, it is 340 milligram or 34,000 gamma of ozone. Once the desired dose is administered, the donor site is detached and all blood in the donor tube is allowed to flow into the EBOO chamber. We can see that the tube is raised high and the blood is being sucked, going into the pump, and from the pump is being pushed into the EBOO machine. Patient's comforts and his monitors and his parameters are constantly monitored. He is comfortable throughout the procedure. We wait till the entire blood is gone. Now we have to remove the silicone tube from the perfusion pump. The pump is switched off. The tubes are removed from the top, meaning we remove the blood in, that is input system, as well as the heparin connection, and these tubings are removed and discarded. The ozone in and the waste out, however, are kept in situ till the entire flask is emptied and is administered to the patient. So now we can see only 2 tubes are left attached to the machine. One is from the bottom, which is blood flow, and ozone and waste from the top. Ozone inflow is continued and waste outflow is retained till the end of the procedure. So there the procedure is about to end. We can see the speed at which the blood is flowing in. The 2 tubes on the top, one is for the waste, other is for the ozone inflow. We can still see the bubbles of ozone in the bottle, and the color of the blood is cherry red, indicating a good degree of ozonization. The perfusion machine is switched off. We wait till the entire blood flows into the body. Once the blood from the bottle is emptied, the set is removed from the bottom and the nurse holds it high up in the air, waiting for it to be completely emptied into the patient. The blood is completely emptied. Once the whole of the ozonated blood has flown into the patient's body, the tubing is detached from the venflon and is capped. One venflon is retained in case we need to administer intravenous drugs or propose to administer hydrogen and nutraceuticals on the next day, while the other venflon is retained. The ultraviolet lights are now switched off. This procedure in real time has taken 30 to 40 minutes. Only the important steps have been recorded, and thus the video is shorter by 37 minutes. So now we have both the venflons capped. We check for the patient comforts and he is saying that he is happy enough. So this patient who had initially met me 6 months back or 8 months back has already had one hip replaced, came to me in a wheelchair, and today he feels extremely pleased and happy, and his steroid doses have come down dramatically from 36 milligrams to 4 milligrams. Now we push 70 micrograms percent of ozone through the empty bottle to measure how much ozone can be utilized by the remaining blood products in the bottle. You can see the bubbly structure of the bottle, and after this extra diffusion it is found that only 9.47 microgram percent per ml exited to the bottle, though 70 microgram per ml was pushed in, meaning the residual blood and serum are still hungry for more ozone, and maybe in future we may need to use much higher doses. I am just showing two examples to exemplify how dramatic and wonderful results EBOO can produce. The first is a case of human papilloma virus infection, fulminant, with a single session of EBOO. The HPV disappeared and the patient became normal. She is eternally grateful. This is an avian FICAD grade 4 impending collapse. After 2 sessions of EBOO and 4 of MAHT with Mukherjee regime, the head has regenerated, and this case is bilateral hip avascular necrosis, FICAD stage 4, which have recovered fully without any collapse. This is a wonderful procedure. If you want to learn more about this system or acquire the IAOS EBOO system, please message the above WhatsApp number for further details. It is preferable that you don't make a voice call but send a message. Thank you very much. Thanks.
எல்லாருக்கும் வணக்கம். என்னோட பேர் வினோத். நான் சென்னையிலேருந்து வரேன். எனக்கு பார்த்திங்கன்னா 8 வயசுலேருந்து ருமடாய்டு ஆர்த்ரைட்டிஸ் இருக்குது. அதுக்காக பார்த்திங்கன்னா நான் நிறைய இடத்துல ட்ரீட்மெண்ட் எடுத்திருக்கேன். நீங்கள் பெரிய ஹாஸ்பிட்டல்னு சொல்கிற எல்லா இடத்துலையுமே நான் ட்ரீட்மெண்ட் எடுத்திருக்கேன். எல்லா டைப் ஆஃப் ட்ரீட்மெண்ட்டும் நான் ட்ரை பண்ணியிருக்கேன். இது வரைக்கும் பார்த்திங்கன்னா எதுவுமே பெருசாக ஒர்க் அவுட் ஆகலை. நான் கடைசியாக நான் இப்போது பிரகாஷ் சார்கிட்ட ஒரு 16 மந்த்ஸாக ட்ரீட்மெண்ட் எடுத்துகிட்ருக்கேன். மொதல் 2 செஷனுக்கு அப்புறம் தான் பார்த்திங்கன்னா எனக்கு வித்தியாசம் தெரிஞ்சுது. நான் அவர்கிட்ட ட்ரீட்மெண்ட் போகிறதுக்கு முன்னாடி என்னோடய பாடியில் ஏகப்பட்ட இஷ்யூ இருந்தது. எந்தெந்த இஷ்யூன்னா பார்த்திங்கன்னா எனக்கு நெக் பெயின் இருந்தது, அதுக்கப்புறம் செஸ்ட் பெயின் இருந்தது, பேக் பெயின், லெக் பெயின், ஹிப் பெயின், நீ ஜாயிண்டில் பெயின்னு சொல்லிட்டு எனக்கு ஏகப்பட்ட இடத்துல பெயின் இருந்தது. அதுவும் இல்லாமல் பார்த்திங்கன்னா ஆல்மோஸ்ட் ஒரு 1.5 இயர் கண்டினியூஸாக வாமிட் எடுத்திருந்தேன். என்னால் ப்ராப்பராக ஃபுட்டு எதுவுமே எடுத்துக்க முடியல. லிக்விட் ஃபுட்டு தான் சாப்பிட்டுட்டு இருந்தேன். ஒரு கடத்துக்கு மேலே பார்த்திங்கன்னா எனக்கு லைஃபே வெக்ஸ் ஆகிடுச்சு. இதுக்கப்புறமா நம்மளால் சர்வே பண்ண முடியுன்ற அந்த தாட்டே சுத்தமாக இல்லை. அப்போ தான் பார்த்திங்கன்னா எங்கள் கம்பெனியில் ஒருத்தர் சொல்லி நான் பிரகாஷ் சாரை ஃபஸ்ட் டைம் அப்போ தான் மீட் பண்ணேன். அப்பாயின்மெண்ட் வாங்கிட்டு நான் அவரை போய் பார்த்தேன். அவர் பார்த்திங்கன்னா இந்த மாதிரி ஓசோன் தெரப்பி பண்ணணும், யூ ஃபீல் பெட்டர் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு சொன்னார். ஆனால் மொதல் வாட்டி பேசும்போது பார்த்திங்கன்னா அவரை பேச எனக்கு அது ஒரு நம்பிக்கை வரல. இது நம்ம எவ்வளோ பார்த்துட்டோம், இது மட்டும் எங்கே சரியாக போகுது அப்படின்ற ஒரு மைண்ட் செட்டில் தான் இருந்தேன். ஆனால் 2 செஷனுக்கு அப்புறம் என்னாலே அதை நம்ப முடியல, இந்த அளவுக்கு ஒரு சேஞ்ச் வரும் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு. இப்போ பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ஏன்னா ஒரு நார்மல் ஹியூமன் பீயிங் என்ன மாதிரி ஆக்டிவிட்டீஸ்லாம் அவங்களால பண்ண முடியுமோ அது எல்லாமே என்னாலையும் பண்ண முடியும். என்னால் நடக்க முடியும், என்னால் உட்கார முடியும், ஏஞ்சிக்க முடியும், வேகமாக நடக்க முடியும், ரொம்ப நேரம் நிற்க முடியும். பெயினும் பார்த்திங்கன்னா ரொம்ப மைல்டாக தான் இருக்குது. இன்னும் சொல்லப்போனால் சில நாள் சுத்தமாக உங்களுக்கு பெயினே ஃபீல் ஆகாது, அந்த அளவுக்கு இருந்தது. இப்போ 16 மந்த் கம்ப்ளீட் ஆகிருக்கு. ஐம் கம்ப்ளீட்லி ஆல் ரைட். எனக்கு ஆர்த்ரைட்டிஸ் இருக்குன்னே பார்த்திங்கன்னா பார்த்தீங்கன்னா நம்பவே மாட்டீங்க. நான் அப்போது நடந்து காமிக்கிறேன் பாருங்கள், எஃபெக்ட் எப்படி இருக்குன்னு சொல்லிட்டு உங்களுக்கே தெரியும். இது பார்த்தீங்கன்னா என்னால் கை தூக்க முடியும், திரும்ப முடியும், எல்லாமே நல்லா பண்ண முடியும், எந்த இஷ்யூவும் இல்லாமல். தேங்க்ஸ் டு பிரகாஷ் சார் அண்ட் தேங்க்ஸ் டு சாய் ஹாஸ்பிட்டல்.